Yeah, well, actually, this situation hit really close to home. I actually was having to help evacuate one of my colleagues, a our fantastic journalist called Tasnim, who was holed up in her home in South Lebanon. She was literally a few meters away from, well, tens of meters away from Israeli bombardments raining down for hours. I was on the phone to her, and as I was speaking to her, there was an incredibly loud explosion. Her mum screamed in the background, and that went on for hours, and she had no way of getting out. Tasneem is a journalist. She lives a normal life. She lives next to olive groves and apple fields. She has nothing to do with Hezbollah.
In breaking news this evening, Israeli airstrikes in Lebanon have killed at least 274 people and left 1,000 wounded. That is according to the Lebanese Health Ministry. Israel says it carried out a precision strike on a suburb south of Beirut. That happened within the last few hours. They are targeting a senior Hezbollah leader. And in fact, the Israeli Prime Minister said our war is with Hezbollah. That is his message to Lebanon. In New York, outside the United Nations General Assembly, the former Secretary of State John Kerry has said he worries that some strategies are beyond diplomacy.
It's extremely concerning because it appears as if some people have adopted strategies that are not subject to diplomacy.
Let's speak to Olivia le Poidevin, who's a journalist at L'Orient, and she's based in Beirut. Good evening to you, Olivia.
Hi, good evening.
Should we talk about the situation in Beirut, which has been specifically targeted by the Israeli military this evening? Just tell us what's been happening from your perspective.
Yeah, well, it's the second time in the matter of a few days that Beirut's southern suburbs has been targeted. This area is has a large number of Hezbollah members living in it, but it's also a residential area with plenty of civilians living there as well. But essentially, what we have seen tonight is another strike on a what looks to be an apartment building. The person who was being targeted is called Ali Karaki, who was a very senior member of Hezbollah's military council, the Jihad Council, and he had actually just come into an even more senior position given the recent assassination of Ibrahim Akil. Now, the latest we have is it's still looking uncertain whether he is actually dead or not. We know that he was certainly being targeted, but we have not had any confirmation from Hezbollah here or the Lebanese authorities. So we're waiting to see, but obviously it's in any case yet another immense incursion on Hezbollah's stronghold, and also in terms of their military might. For the past week, we have seen relentless attacks both on their military communication systems in terms of their pagers and walkie-talkies that they possess being blown up in these kind of spontaneous explosions. Then we've had these now two strikes targeting, the kind of top brass of Hezbollah's military, and then of course all of this in the context of a day of incredibly intense, vast and broad strikes all over the south of the country. And as it stands tonight, the latest death toll from just today alone is 356 people and more than 1,200 wounded. And this is said to be, as of today, the deadliest day in Lebanon since the war in 2006, which was a 30-day war between Hezbollah and Israel.
356 people, 24 children, 42 women in amongst those dead. As you said, most wide-ranging day, the day with the highest death count and injury count since 2006. I was also reading earlier that because southern Lebanon is being targeted, citizens there are being told to evacuate the area, and actually many of them are heading to Beirut. I wonder if you've seen witness of that, of sort of, huge swathes of people potentially, moving north, trying to move away from where those Israeli strikes have been really intense across the border.
Yeah, well, actually, this situation hit really close to home. I actually was having to help evacuate one of my colleagues, our fantastic journalist called Tasnim, who was holed up in her home in South Lebanon. She was literally a few meters away from, well, tens of meters away from Israeli bombardments raining down for hours. I was on the phone to her, and as I was speaking to her, there was an incredibly loud explosion. Her mum screamed in the background, and that went on for hours, and she had no way of getting out. Tasneem is a journalist. She lives a normal life. She lives next to olive groves and apple fields. She has nothing to do with Hezbollah. Many, many civilians have been experiencing the same thing today, as there has just been relentless bombardment across the south. I'm pleased to say, though, she has been able to leave her village in the south. Her journey should normally take about 2 hours from the south up to Beirut. She's been on the road already for at least 6 hours. She still hasn't even made it to Saida. Saida is a city kind of in the middle of Lebanon, and that's because of the amount of people fleeing. We have seen, I mean, she's been sending us updates and photos of the roads absolutely bumper to bumper, people running out of gas, having to leave their cars on the side of the road. And we're seeing both huge amounts of people trying to flee the south and eastern parts of the country. And the road actually right next to my office, even in Beirut, was bumper to bumper for hours as people try to head up to the mountains. Obviously, the mountains are seen as a safer part of Lebanon to flee to, because as they've traditionally not been targeted. So across the country, people are heading north and trying to get to safety. We've seen schools and religious sites open their doors to try and provide, emergency accommodation to people here in Beirut for those who managed to make it safely. And again, what a difference a week makes. This is a completely different situation to what we've even seen in the last few days.
Look, please stay safe. Our best wishes to all your colleagues, as you say, journalists there trying to make sure they are safe, as are ordinary Lebanese citizens. From their point of view, Israel will say Hezbollah is a prescribed terrorist organisation. They are very much trying to take out the top brass. In fact, at the weekend, we heard from Herzog, I think, who said that he felt actually the majority of the senior leadership of Hezbollah had been wiped out. How accurate that is, I don't know. But, clearly the assault continues and it's intensified today dramatically. Olivia, thanks so much for speaking to us. Olivia le Poidevin is a journalist at Lorient in Beirut. Thanks for being with us. Thank you.